What's this mean? What colors? Whatever. So for some people, yeah, hopefully maybe learn something new. I call it Class 101, so it's kind of a beginner point. This is kind of what I want to go through. Colors, marks, colors itself, and try to tie it all together. Ada clay was the first color or clay that was used. It was very light colored, came from Ada. There are Arbuckle Hills down there. One way that you can tell, and it isn't always accurate, but most of it was the wet finger test. If you got Ada clay, lick your finger, put it on it, it'll stay the same color. That's kind of one of the best ways of telling if that's Ada clay or not. Here's some examples again. Again, it's hard to see with photographs, but it was produced from 34, 33, 34, up to 54. 54 is one of those, was it 53, was it 55, when was it? And this causes a lot of questions when you get a piece that you know was produced in this color and this year, and it's Ada clay and it should be red clay, etc., etc. Well, remember, John didn't throw anything away, so if he had clay, it was going to get used. So it may have carried through. They may have had a bag back in the corner where they forgot about it, and all of a sudden they found it and they were going to use it. So sometimes you may get a piece that you know should be red clay and it's Ada clay. So again, be aware of that, that as you go through this, you're going to find the pieces that nobody can explain. Second clay that Frankoma used was in 54. They switched to Sapulpa clay, Sugar Hill, which isn't too far from here, the way I understand it. And they also use it for bricks as well as the pottery. The clay was very rich in minerals, and it changed the appearance of some of the colors they called rutile colors. As you can see, the prairie green, woodland moss, you can really tell the difference there. Peach gold and desert gold. You can really tell the difference between Ada clay, red clay, and even later in pink clay. Third clay, again, was still the red clay, but they used a different mixture. They got it from Australia, if I remember right, and so it again changed the appearance of the clay. It went from red to pink, and that caused a lot of issues, especially with new collectors. They think they have a pink piece of clay, and they say it's Ada. Well, it isn't, because you can tell by the color, year it's made, the mark on it. And again, I'm just trying to say the years that things changed is not a definite. It's not just one day he went from this to this. It was over time. And I really think that Ada clay was from 53 to 55 time frame that it eventually got all over the red clay. Now, come to the marks that were used. The easiest way to say it is pre-38 and post-38, because pre-38 is pretty easy. They were Roundo, Bank Pottery marks, the Joe Taylor, the Pot and Puma, the partial Pot and Puma. Those were very definitely pre-38. After 38, they were not used again. So you see those type of marks, you know it's a pre-38 piece. But again, sometimes you will find a piece that was post 38 that maybe had a round O in it. Don't know why. Again, it's one of those things, who knows? Again, you know, the most collectible are the Frank potteries, Norman Mark, rubber stamp with the black. It's very, very collectible. I got some examples here that I'll show you. Again, these are examples of the pre-38 type marks. And I think everybody sees those or desires those because, like I said, those usually end up being the most collectible. Again, there's a couple others here. The one you see there that says Second. You'll find a piece of them every once in a while out in the wild. It was a piece that when they examined the pieces back in that time frame, if it did not meet the quality standards, it was stamped second, and it was sold through the company store. Never intended to get into public use. But again, you'll see them out in the wild. You'll also see irregular stamped on them as well. So you see those pieces, they're in this time frame. Again, they were never ever put in, sold to the public. Workers bought them, whatever, for their own use, and over the years they got into, circulation. The first kiln mark, that's one that can cause some confusion. The first kiln was incised into the clay. The very few pieces of that, after they got the kilns going back after the 38 fire. And like I said, they will say that they're incised, they aren't stamped on it, they aren't written on it. Some people have pieces that say first kiln. Now they may have been a test piece or something else, but the true first kiln was all hand incised into the clay. Also, there's sometimes you'll see the mark down there in the bottom. Looks like the bottom of a pot. That was what they call partial cat. The other one is full cat. They were two marks that way. I mean, there's the full cat and then the broken cat, they called it. And of course, then you got your John Frank OU mark, which is highly desirable. Boussaint mark, again, there's the one that not many of them were made. They were mainly the mint bowls. But again, there were a few of them in the wild. So again, they used many marks back in the 38 time frame. Again, they were special items. Marks used in the 40s, again, they were the oblong O. Original creation sticker was on them. Indian head was late 40s to the early 50s. Made in USA was mid 40s. Again, I think it was John's attempt to show the pride in the U.S. was during the war. So he, stamped right in, made in USA, made in Sapulpa. Again, you can see some of these marks here. Again, like I said, made in Sapulpa, Oklahoma. Again, it was probably the mid-40s, somewhere in that time frame. And then marks 50s to the current. Again, you can find round O's, but they're very large. So you know that, because every once in a while you'll see somebody, well, I got a round O. And you look at it, well, yeah, it's a round O, but it isn't the 40s mark, or the 38 mark. It's in the 50s. You also find some pieces that got JF for Janice Frank. They're on some pieces that were done. Again, here's some of the marks that you see there in the 50s time frame. And then you got your one that seems to be hot right now is your trade winds, cultural, pearl. That was done in this time frame as well. And again, these are my observations. Again, you know what they say, an expert is somebody that lives 50 miles away. I'm more than 50 miles away, so I must be an expert. Don't believe it. The years for marks are reference points. Again, they can vary. The only clear ones are marks that were the pre-38 fire. Because like I said, after that, they did not use those marks. Items got in circulation with seconds marked on. Again, like I said, you'll see them or with irregular on it. And then I again try to explain the first kiln, that there's a big difference between the true first kiln and other items. And again, there's items found with other special marks. Again, they're meant to be put in circulation. I think the reason why the numbers came into being is for inventory control, so they knew what was being made, what wasn't being made, because a lot of the early pieces did not have marks on them. The early vases did not. Gary Schaum helped a lot with that. He kind of created a reference number. I kind of expanded on it. It just helps you identify what a vase is, because like I said, a lot of the early vases did not have numbers on them. There were numbers that were reused over time. Again, this can cause some confusion, because somebody says, well, I got a 32, and it's a shell vase, or it's a shell ashtray. Well, a 32 is this, and no, it's this. Well, again, it's because it was reused over time. The early marks were usually handwritten into it or hand stamped into it. And then they had just a stamp mold. That's the reason once in a while you'll find the wrong number on the wrong item. You'll find them backwards. Again, human nature. When you have, humans doing it, you're going to get some variations. Then, like I said, later they were put into molds themselves so that there was not that issue. Unless the mold, and that's happened. And specialty items usually did not have numbers on them. I mean, if they were made for a car manufacturer or whatever, a lot of times they were designed for that specific reason, and they did not have mold numbers, especially if they were not I want to say, a common item that was in the inventory. If they had to design it, they usually did not have mold numbers on it. And this one probably the biggest one. I did not do all the colors, because after I got done, I figured out there is 61 colors that were produced from start to finish. Some of them are recognized. Most of them are recognized. There's a few that I found over time that other people have found that, well, was it really a color or was it the firing or whatever it was? But I come up about 61. And this kind of starts from the beginning to the end. And, so I tried to start 33 and list all the colors that were produced 33 going forward. Try to give a start point and an end point. Used my information, other people's information on the web, Gary Schaum's information, Susan Cox, Phyllis Best. I tried to do the best I can. And again, this is open to discussion. I'll guarantee you, because there is no right or wrong to it. But again, it kind of explains the progression. This presentation will be up on Ken Wickham's site, so if you want to go out, print it off yourself so you kind of got an idea of what colors were produced when. If you're looking for something or trying to identify something, this should help. Because again, colors will give you a pretty good idea of when things were made. The faux ivory is one that I put up there. Again, it's not a recognized color. It was never in the inventory. But there's a lot of pieces out there that look like ivory but aren't true ivory. And Gib Green was the one that denoted faux ivory as a color. Again, I don't know if it was ever truly a true Frankoma color, but I put it up there with, double asterisk just for people to recognize that it does exist out there. The other one I skipped over was 35 Chinese bottle vase. It was in Chinese red, and that's the only time that color was ever used. As you can see, there's lots and lots of colors. Just a few here that I thought were interesting that maybe help explain a few things. Verde Bronze was the first really green that came into being. Then it was renamed Bronze Green, then renamed Patina, then renamed Prairie Green. So if you wonder where Prairie Green actually came from, this is kind of the history behind it. And there was subtle definitions between each of them. But that's kind of progression of how we end up with Prairie Green. Browns are kind of the same way. First one was Maple, renamed Texas Brown, renamed Osage Brown. Again, kind of a progression that there's subtle changes in it, but they all started out as the first one.
So they are different paint colors?
They are very slight, but they are different colors. But they're very, very subtle. One color that was only used on the V10, V11 base was Morning Glory Blue. And that's the only time it was ever used. Yellows and golds, again, there's a lot of variation in those two. Old gold became what we know as desert gold. Again, it was a rutile. Again, time period, is that exactly right? Don't know, but it's the best that people can come up with. Cream was another one that was an interesting one. It was produced for the Guernsey creamer, and there's different sizes, and it was produced for Meadow Lanes Dairy, and usually it was stamped Christmas. Now, people have found pieces that are in the same cream color as what was on the Guernseys. Again, not very many, but again, that was supposed to be the only color that was used. I've also seen it in green. So again, there's no hard rule one way or another. Blood red first came as jewelry, and like I said, in 1955-57. Later it became Freedom Red. And just some final thoughts. And again, nobody has to agree with me on this. It's just some things that over time, the more you get into Frankoma, the more you realize there's more to know. Nobody's going to know everything about it. You always find that one piece that throws everything out of whack for whatever reason. It just makes no sense whatsoever. And everybody has seen one of those. It's like, it can't be in that color, or it can't have that mark on it. Don't know why. Somewhere's it happened. And I kind of try to list some key time frames in my mind that are important to Frankoma. So the first one was 38 fire. I mean, it had a definite impact on Frankoma. Again, they lost most of the master molds, not all of them, but they lost most of them. That's the reason why you find some pieces that are bigger than their counterpart before the fire, because they had to make them off of existing pieces, so you don't get the same size. Some of them never were remade. 42. I don't know why 42 always seemed like a key milestone in Frankoma. The more I started sitting there thinking about it, there was a lot of colors produced in 42 that didn't exist before. There were a lot of pieces that were introduced in 42 that were never produced again. They were 42, 43 time frame, and that was it. Then I started sitting there thinking about it. Well, 41 was when they were probably planning for 42. Pearl Harbor happened in 1941, December, going into 42. So U.S. involvement in the World War probably changed a lot of marketing plans, a lot of other things that probably people didn't even think about. So I think that's the reason why you see some items that were very nice items never produced again. So, I mean, you know, again, just my thought that that might have had an effect on what was done during that time period. '53 to '55, again, that's Ada clay. I discussed that a little bit. Again, you know, you read some people say, well, '53 was when Ada clay was discontinued. Other people say '54, but yet you find pieces in '55 that are Ada clay. Again, I just think that John Frank didn't waste anything. He had it available. He used it. 80 to '84 was the red clay to pink clay conversion. Again, that did not happen overnight. So again, there was a time period that you're going to see some overlap. 83 was the second fire. Again, as much as I say it, I think that was the beginning of the end, because I don't think Frankoma ever recovered the glory from that time period. It just was a hit. I mean, I think it just, you know, they tried, but I don't think they ever recovered. And then, like I said, 2010, Frankoma closed. That's what I had for my presentation. I got some examples up here if anybody would like to come up and take a look at them. I want to produce some pictures of this and put it also out on the web. That's probably class 102. It takes a lot of work to be able to get all the colors and photographs, but I got an example of turquoise here. I got an example of sunflower yellow, old yellow, ivory, the clay blue, sky blue, the reds, which a lot of people get confused with, jade green versus silver sage. This is blue-gray jade, woodland moss, peach glow. So if anybody wants to come up and take a look, have a discussion, I'm opening it to the audience right now, I guess. So anybody got questions? Yes.
I do, Bob. If you have a pot or a piece of Frankoma in a window for a long, long time, will the glaze fade? Do you know anything about that?
I don't think it should. The one thing you don't want to do, and this is voice of experience, is leave salt in a salt shaker.
No, don't do that.
That will ruin it quicker than anything. I mean, especially if you leave it sit for a couple years, all of a sudden you'll start seeing the salt come through the clay.
And break it.
And break it.
Right.
So if you find a salt and pepper shaker, pepper doesn't hurt it. Salt will. Get the salt out of it.
Everybody probably knows the answer, but I don't. Does anybody own the mold for Frankoma? Is there anybody that's thinking about, are there any heirs or?
Well, when they sold the factory, they sold the molds and everything. I don't really know who really bought them. Right back there is your gentleman.
You bought it? Wow. Well, so we went.
Yes.
What about the stickers? Were they used later on, or were they just in the earlier times?
Well, like I said, the Indian head, she asked, is stickers used later on in time? Most of the time, they were the Indian head stickers, which was used in the 40s. I don't think they were ever used later than that. You had the 35th anniversary, you had the 50th anniversary. I don't think, and then there was, original creation. Those got used through time, yes. So if you see original creation, yeah, they could be used any time during the time period. So. Any other questions, comments?
You said something about the 330 exchange.
It wasn't supposed to. No, you'll find a piece every once in a while. Yeah. I mean, it does happen. It didn't take long for them to catch it, but like I said, there were pieces that got it reversed. And like I said, it's more common to find, especially in the early pieces, to find the wrong number on an item. That seems to happen more often than once in a while.
Hey, Bob, would you explain how firing affects a color?
Okay. She talked about firing. Firing of the different type of clays, with the colors could really impact what it looked like. I mentioned, prairie green's a prime example. You can see every shade of prairie green in the world. Some of them are almost speckled. Some are, I want to almost call it striped. It's almost perfect stripe. Again, it wasn't an exact science. You put it in the kiln, you set the kiln to a certain temperature, you waited Next amount of time, you pulled it out, cooled it down. 5 minutes early, 5 minutes late, 10 degrees hotter, 10 degrees colder. Could have made a big difference on what the effect of what the clay looked like. A lot of people, when I talked about the fall ivory, a lot of people think that was overfired ivory. That made it that little bit darker. On the bottom of pieces, that's brick red there. If it's really overfired, that'll almost be black. And so you can see the difference that way. So again, what mix was with what pieces could make a big difference too. If you had some big items with smaller items, maybe you left it in it a few more minutes longer to get the big pieces cooked, and you overcooked the smaller ones. So again, human nature. That's part of the beauty of this, is because it wasn't an exact science. That's Jonice talked a little bit about, you feel it. Some of the pieces you can just feel that just perfect.
What would you say is the most rare?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah,
Was there one that was made less, a color that was made, or
I would, my opinion, it varies, but I say Cherokee Red's about one of the rare ones. Pompeian Bronze is another very, very rare one.
brown?
Yeah, Pompeian, yeah. Cherokee Red is one that really gets confused with a lot of other colors because it is very unique, and again, a little bit of fire in one way or another changed the definition of it a lot.
I've got 3 Cherokee Red, Indian Nest, and every one different.
Yep. So. Any other questions? Okay, I'll turn it back over to Randy.